had to do things that I didn't want to do and pretend like I liked it. You see what I mean? And then other people come into contact with the diminished me, who's worn down to a, just a tattered shadow of what I would have been had I not had to, accommodate this matrix of dysfunctional deceptions. And then what? I need of them what? What's the least that they can do? Well, they lie a little bit. Lie by doing what I want you to do, even if you don't want to do it. Lie by not telling me the ways in which my behaviors impose upon you, behaviors that are occurring because I'm not really in conscious control of my life. You see what I'm saying? Because, and that's that thing, is that if I operate my mind in a way that makes it so that I need or feel as if I need concessions from others, I'm going to end up feeling entitled to those concessions, right? And I'm gonna confabulate some philosophy or some, well, this and that, and if it weren't this way, then it wouldn't be, but it was this way, and I did this for you, remember that time, and you know what I mean? I just whip it up, And if I don't whip it up, it's because I don't experience the need strong enough. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so this one lie leading to another, someone has to stop. I mean, at some point, some individual or group of people have to stop doing things that they know don't make any goddamn sense. That's very important. You know what I'm saying? To say, like, I'm a human being, I'm an individual, I'm going to do what makes sense to me. And, there's certain, to me, they're always the kind of common sense things. You can't hit this kid, you can't take his toys. Don't do that, that's not yours. You should share. And I see sharing, I was really iffy about sharing. And I was iffy about having to share. And one of the reasons I didn't want to share my toys is because the other kids were stupid. And they didn't handle them with care. You know what I'm saying? You know why? Because they want their fucking toys, that's why. It belonged to them. If the arm got loose or the paint got chipped, what the fuck do they care? They're going home, And so sharing, to me, was kind of like, well, how do I feel about sharing? Depends on what I'm sharing, depends on with whom I'm sharing it, depends on whether or not there's an element of coercion from an outside force called parents or the government that is mediating the sharing, right? A lot of things go into how I feel about sharing. And I think that sometimes sharing is good, sometimes sharing is not so good. And that's one of the reasons that I think that sharing should be a volitional activity, right? That two people say, want to share this thing, want to share this resource of mine, want to exchange it for this resource of yours, and then leave it to the individuals to make a choice about that. I don't think that's a perfect system, but I don't think there's a better system, right? And that's one of those classic things that idiots like to do. Idiots that think they're smart like to use the imperfection of the best possible system to justify the formulation and hasty implementation of utterly disastrous systems. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? Because somebody drew it on a piece of paper and it worked fine. It worked fine on the paper. You know what I mean? Why shouldn't it work here? Oh, it's not working here. People aren't doing it. Well, just kill them. And, and you think that if you just kill a few of them here and there, now that everything will be fine. But the problem is each generation recognizes what a fucking moron you are and what a shitty system this is. And so then you got to kill them too. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that at some point somebody has to become like, listen, I'm not gonna bullshit you. What is this? You're currying favor? Do you want to curry favor with people who require a level of diplomacy that necessitates an estrangement from honesty and a candid relationship with reality? You know what I mean?
Yes.
I think that's unhealthy, and I think there's something. I think there's some, and I don't. My worldview is not I'm a good person and there's bad people out there, and so goddamn it, I'm not going to bend over. My worldview is that the problem with the world is that there are so many people who are so concerned about what other people think that they are willing to accommodate absurdities. I don't think it's the absurdities that are the problem. I think it's the accommodating of what people recognize as absurd in their personal life, right? And that's the other thing I don't understand, is that you'll have people who are, very libertarian, let's say, or conservative, or let's say they're liberal. They have these very kind of like high-minded ideas about the way the country should be run and the way things should be. And they violate those principles in their interpersonal relationships at every possible turn. their personal relationships are a fucking disaster area, very often, but they think that they're capable of discerning what legislation should be forced upon 300 million people, which is interesting. Ma'am, you don't even know how to not fight with your husband. Do you know what I'm saying? Like you are, or you have some worldview. You think this is the way that's going to fix everything, but you aren't. You're a libertarian, but you aren't even dead set on owning your decisions in your personal life. You know what I'm saying? Like you let your mother push you around, or you do shit for people that you don't want to do. You know what I mean? Consistently. And you do things that you know are stupid. Like, that's not living a principle, is it? There's a certain incongruity there. And that's, I mean, for me, identifying a set of useful principles and then learning to live by them is such a time-consuming and protracted process that it's, the moment I encounter somebody who's evangelistic about something, particularly when it's a sort of, not just like, oh, I like this product, or I like this system, or I like this approach, or this exercise. It's, you know, that's one that's enthusiasm. But when a person is pushing a certain global fix to a problem, you know what I mean? I really kind of just wonder about that person and their level of self-awareness. You know what I'm saying? Like, do they know that? Do they know that they're probably not qualified to be making sweeping proclamations about the reorganization of the universe or the terrestrial plane? You know, and they seem utterly unaware. That's the thing, right? They seem utterly unaware of the incongruity that I can see the fight that you just have with your spouse on your face, and yet here you are telling me about how perfect this new system's going to work, or how much better it is, you know, and it's always more complex and it's always more interference. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But the capacity to be honest with myself about what I know, what I don't know, what makes sense to me, what doesn't make sense to me, what I want to do, what I know isn't working, you know, I find that a willingness to be candid with myself about what I know to be true. Like, I know where the trail of truth starts very often, but I don't know where it leads, you know. And you could even say that the trail of resourceful response. Like, I don't know if I choose to say this thing to this person, I don't necessarily know where that's going to head, you know. But I know that resourceful response, I know that saying that thing is the thing to do now, right? Or I know simply that thing needs to be said. Am I willing to step onto the trail not knowing where it's going? Because the sequence of resourceful responses tend to reveal themselves in a way that's sort of similar to the way in which a trail reveals itself as you go down it. You know what I mean? But is it enough for you to know, oh, this is the resourceful trail? This is, you know, or do you have to know something else? This is a resourceful trail that isn't going to upset anybody, right? No, this is the thing that makes sense to do right now. And because of the nature of things and the disorganization of people's psyche, very often doing what makes sense evokes some pushback and some condemnation, you know? And I don't think it's until, for me, total freedom from concern about the criticism and condemnation of others didn't come until I saw where all of the criticism and condemnation came from within myself. Without exception, every single time there was something wrong with me. The impulse to condemn anything, right? Always something going awry within me. Now, I'm not saying that's true for everyone. I'm just doing a personal commentary, and I'm explaining how I liberated myself from the oppressive yoke of concern about criticism, because I demonstrated to myself that reliably the times that I felt critical of others and expressed that criticism particularly to others or to others about that other, the reason that I did it was never what they had done or were doing or the way they were. Right? Now maybe they were doing or being some way that wasn't great, but that wasn't why I was criticizing them. You know what I'm saying? And it was a recognition of that made it so that I was genuinely indifferent to the criticism of other people, because I have an intuitive sense about where that criticism is coming from, it may exceed that person's understanding of where it's coming from. I know that they think that they're criticizing me because of what I said or did. I know they think that, but I also know it's not true, right? I'm self-persuaded that that's the case. Now, that doesn't stop me from, assessing and modifying my behavior. But what it does do is free me from, it's hard to describe, there's this feeling inside, and it feels like a virtuous feeling of being concerned about the other, not wanting to do the wrong thing, it feels like being afraid, but it feels like the kind of afraid that a good person is, because they don't want to do wrong. You know what I'm saying? That's what it feels like. But once I kind of surgically remove that feeling from myself, I realized that that's not what that feeling really was, right? That was an invader. That was sort of a parasite that was living inside of me. And that was really the genesis of a lot of manipulative behavior on my part and a lot of stifling of my own kind of expression as a human being. I mean, the desire, the fear of what other people would think never has kept me from hurting someone else's feelings, ever, right? I mean, a desire to avoid hurting other people when it's possible without compromising the sensible course of action, that's kept me from hurting other people's feelings, right? I'm walking through the field, I see a flower, I step to the side. You know what I'm saying? Do I not walk through the field? No, that's stupid and extreme, right? But I don't kind of wantonly crush things on purpose. You know what I'm saying? And I think the thing is, some of our greatest dysfunctions are buried deep inside, and they have a shell that is designed to mimic, upon cursory examination, a virtue. And you might want to keep that in mind, right? When you're looking at that stuff, because you look at it and it looks so innocent or so justified, or to question that would be to question umpteen number of unquestionable things. So we might as well not even start. Oh no, just start. Just start. Just like there's one screw that seems a little loose. So if we loosen that one, or if we tighten that one, we're gonna have to start testing a whole bunch of. Just tighten that one, see what happens. Just look under that first rock. You know what I'm saying? Like if there's a rustle under the floorboards, just lift open that one floorboard, and maybe you'll see something that will cause you to conclude that remedying whatever the infestation is worth the effort to lift up all the floorboards. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's that thing, is that sometimes, at some point, I think you do have to see something inside yourself that is so horrifying. And I don't mean horrifying in the sense of like, oh my God, I'm a sociopathic monster. I mean horrifying in the sense that you say, holy shit, that is completely nuts. And I cannot believe I was under the sway of that assumption, that belief, that pattern, that reasoning, that whatever, right? You got to find that. You have to see that squirming and wiggling around inside you somewhere one time. Once you've seen that, your interest in self-observation will naturally increase significantly, because you'll realize what it's possible to have inside you without realizing that it's there. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's good information.